Good morning, everybody. Soul and Shine All here, coming to you thoughts for the weekend for this Friday, March 1st, 2013. Let's get into it. There is no, the unemployment report's not out, even though it is the 1st of March. It's not out for February. They're going to delay that till next Friday, the 8th, so we'll hit that next Friday. It's the only thing economic reality report. Obviously, it's been pretty up and down in the markets. A lot of that coming out of the turmoil going on in Europe with the Italian elections. Initial claims for unemployment are still in the range that they've been in for the last year, but down 22,000 to 344,000 this week. Not too much of a change. One of the things I saw, though, was the extended claims, the EUC, Emergency Unemployment Compensation. That's a federal program, and that's what people get after their state benefits run out. They can no longer get unemployment through their state. They get the emergency unemployment compensation from the federal government. And that has jumped 8.5% this last week. So that's not good. There's longer term unemployment is continuing. They throw people off the rolls faster. I don't see the employment situation getting any better in this country. And now with this push of trying to Obama's dream, and the liberals, they seem to think that, or the progressives, that, you know, we just need to keep raising the minimum wage. Every time you raise a minimum wage, it cuts out more and more of the workforce, and it almost guarantees that your kids, your 16, 17, 18-year-old, even up to 25 years old, people aren't going to be able to get jobs. It's going to be like a European socialist state where the youth just don't get jobs. They can't get jobs because the levels of income and the wages are so high, dictated by the government, that companies aren't able to hire unqualified or unskilled workers at the younger level like they used to. You know, you used to be able to, you hire some kids, you pay them a little bit, you know, it's not the highest wage in the world, but it's, you know, you're paying them for their time while you teach them a skill, and it's just becoming less and less likely to even happen. So we're going to end up with a lot more youth in this country running around with no job, and what do you think they're going to get into? Trouble. Also coming out this week, we see that income, U.S. household income, dropped to the lowest level, or dropped the largest percentage it has in 20 years. You know, down 3.6%. That's not good. The economy is basically stalling out with the payroll tax going back into effect first of the year. That was that 2% reduction last year that they put in there just to kind of make people feel good about their employment situation or lack thereof. It's a sure sign that things are getting bad. This is how people deal with it, is they end up spending more of their savings to get by week to week, month to month. Well, when those savings run out, the economy really takes a hit. You know, people's savings levels had started to go back up the last couple of years because with the cuts in tax plans and payroll tax cut, people were able to put away a little bit more. Well, that's coming to an end. So, not looking good for the U.S. economy, especially with Europe crashing the way it is this last week. It all snowballs downhill, and it's not going to do so hot. As many of you know, today or yesterday, I guess today, early this morning, marked the deadline for the government, Congress, and the President to come up with a deal on budget cuts, or the sequestration. That's the term that they came up with for the automatic budget cuts go into effect. Well, as of midnight tonight, those budget cuts go into effect because there's no deal, no compromise. There's a lot of finger pointing going on between the Congress, the Senate, the President. President Obama is the one who came up with the sequestration. He's the one who put that into the bill they passed a year ago to raise the debt limit, because he felt that if he puts that in there, you know, no congressman, no senator is going to ever, you know, let it go so far as to have automatic budget cuts go into effect, because it would just be too drastic. And if you listen to all the hype going on in the media and the fear mongering going on, fear porn is just out of control. You would think the world was coming to an end with the sequestration, when in fact all it does is there's an automatic spending cut of about roughly 2.4%. It's not a 10% reduction. It's $85 billion over the course of the year. $84 billion. Low. You know how little that is? That's about less than 8 days of spending that the federal government does in a year. So 8 days, we're talking what? So they don't spend money, they cut 1 day a month. You know, teachers in our area will have furloughs go into effect, and they have to cut back, you know, a day or two a month without pay. I don't see how this is such a critical thing that's going to destroy the country. 8 days without the government spending money. That's it. That's what it amounts to, folks. 8 days. Less than 8 days. Politicians will never get it. You know, Bob Woodward, famous reporter who broke the Watergate scandal years ago against Nixon. He's the one that's come out and said that, you know, he had the proof that Obama is the one who put in the sequestration terms into that legislation. And of course everyone's attacking him because the White House is denying it, but the fact is it's true. And, you know, they can't let it go into effect and hurt things now, because that's a black eye to Obama, because he's the foolish one that thought that putting that in there would keep it from happening. But it didn't. And it doesn't go far enough. These automatic cuts, $85 billion, really? When we go into debt every year, another $1 trillion, $85 billion is nothing. Less than 8 days of spending. So it just shows you that the ridiculousness of it. There's a pretty good guest post there on the Zero Hedge. I'm going to attach it below. It's in part of the Sequestration Who's to Blame link down below, in the more information, or whatever they call that box down below nowadays. You know, it's quite an interesting read. You know, when you read about how bad or how not bad this whole situation is, and how it just gets blown out of proportion by everybody, in the media especially. Politicians, wow. So of course, with these cuts, that means, you know, layoffs and furloughs, and you have all the fear-mongering going on. Well, a reporter went out and interviewed a bunch of federal workers, and of course they're whining and complaining about, you know, what this means to them and their families. And, you know, I understand, but people in the private sector go through this every day, and we don't have such gracious, you know, benefit plans and everything to help protect us. And it's really, really nothing that serious. So I understand if you have to work for state or federal government because you need a job and it's what's available at the time, but I feel like you should be always working to try to either go into business for yourself or work in the private sector. Because any kind of government job, whether it's county, state, federal, your job is being paid for by the people around you. You're basically beholden to, or everything you get comes from the taxpayer. And it just, I don't know, as a person, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, I wouldn't be happy knowing that I rely upon everybody else for my living, that it's through the threat of prosecution by the government that people don't pay their taxes. You know, that's how I make my money. I think money, I don't know. I'll stop there. I'm not going to go into that topic too much. It's a personal thing with me about self-sufficiency and making your own way in this world and figuring things out. But that doesn't fly so much these days. It's kind of politically incorrect, I guess. So, California. Wow, we just can't get any crazier in the state, right? We voted ourselves a state tax increase this last year. It was temporary for the children. In 2010, the people voted another tax. They changed the way that the gas tax, the excise tax, is calculated in the state, and they put that under the franchise tax board in the state. So now the franchise tax board gets to determine what the excise tax is every year based on the budgeted amounts from the years prior. Well, of course, they met this week and found that, hey, they budgeted that we would have this much income coming from the excise tax on gas in 2012, We didn't get that, therefore we need to increase the excise tax on gas. So in California we pay an excise tax as well as the federal excise tax as well as sales tax for every gallon of gas. And they're going to raise the excise tax per gallon of gas in California another 3.5 cents, taking us up to 39.5 cents per gallon. And yes, that puts us at basically the highest gas in the nation per gallon, with the exception of Hawaii, which is a small little island out in the middle of the Pacific that, yeah, gas costs a lot, but you walk around the island, right? So, it's bigger than that, but still, gas is not that needed. California, one of the largest states in the nation, a lot of gas driving around getting from one point to another. So I just don't get it. I don't understand when Californians are going to get some common sense. I know people make comments about me living in California and how can I do it, and the majority of the state is rural farmland, mountainous areas, the eastern parts, the northern parts, the extreme southeastern parts. The only parts that have all the crazy liberal progressives that are destroying the state live along the coast between LA and San Francisco for the most part. So we're not all crazy. It's not a disastrous land. There's a lot of great people and great areas of the state, but someday I think we're just going to have to drive them all into the ocean and be done with it. So, news on the gun debate. Apparently there was a memo that was found. The NRA is using it currently in ads against the Obama administration, where the Justice Department had one of their analysts looking at all the gun legislation proposals, and he basically said it's just not gonna help unless we confiscate the guns. So I mean, that's pretty much the way the government understands they need to go, that any gun legislation really is not going to have any effect. The registration, the background checks, all that, it's not going to have an effect, not the effect they want, without confiscation. So of course, the administration's denying it, but there's a 9-page document that basically states, yes, the only method that would actually work is confiscation. And if anyone thinks that wouldn't happen, well, better look again, because confiscation is the way it always goes. When they force you to register your weapons, next thing you know, they come around and say, well, now we know you've got it, so now turn it in or you're going to jail. The last couple of episodes of Thoughts for the Week, I've talked about the bullet purchases of DHS and why they need so many bullets. And, well, out on the Federal Business Operations website, FOB, you'll find that there was a document, and this was found by Paul Watson at InfoWars. It was a 9-page document outlining the purchase agreements basically for the DHS, Department of Homeland Security's, ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, where they were purchasing $1.5 million worth of firearms parts from Remington directly. And it's this whole document pertaining to the need to purchase OEM parts to repair firearms, because they talk about how, in this document, how, well, because of the budgetary situations, they can't really just buy whole brand new weapons, so they need to repair the ones they have. And it's better that they buy OEM because that makes the weapons the safest rather than buying third-party parts, yada yada yada. What was interesting about this document is how they redacted a lot of the data, especially the estimated amount of how much they were buying, how many weapons they have. Interesting how they redact that information out. Usually the only time the government redacts is if it's national security related. In other news, we had reports about Hanford nuclear site, which is a nuclear reservation, if you will, out in Washington State. It's kind of in the central southern part of the state on the Columbia River, and it's a pretty large facility, nuclear facility, where they do a lot of nuclear generation as far and storage of nuclear waste as well. Well, apparently, it's more of that fear-mongering going on. Apparently, Department of Energy was doing a analysis of the site and found that there's roughly about 1,000 gallons of nuclear waste leaked from that site every year. about 1,000 gallons. And the fear mongering is that, well, with the sequestration coming into effect, that it's probably going to get worse and more people are going to grow third legs because they won't have the money to properly contain. So sequestration equals less than 8 days of government spending, so I don't see how that will have an effect. Alright, on the lighter side, as I close this out, video of the week. It's a video Joe Biden being interviewed on CBS News about the issue of women protecting themselves with guns, and him declaring that they need to get a shotgun, and that's what he tells his wife, you know, just grab that double barrel shotgun and fire at the door, you know, fire it out in the air. Well, it's a pretty funny video. Go ahead and watch it. Why does the reporter sound like a woman? It's another whole issue, but listen to what Joe Biden has to say about his sage advice. You know, he's Joe Biden, or Carnac Biden. He's going to tell you exactly what you can do and how you can save yourself and protect yourself with a shotgun. But watch the whole video. You'll get a kick out of it. So that's all I've got for this week. Don't forget to comment. Let me know if any of these stories touch your heart in any particular way. Go ahead and do a video response on any of these topics if you want. We'll go ahead and attach it here. It's a good time to rant and rave, and you know, don't forget to rate, subscribe, let your friends know. That's all we got. Take care. Have a great weekend. SOS out.